Hey guys, JamesMCD Reviews here.
I love being purple!
First off, I want to wish all of you guys a very Merry Christmas. I hope you all had a great time. I hope you got everything you wanted. But most of all, I really hope that some asshole in a red suit didn't break into your house and hold you against your will. Oh, you think I'm kidding? Before I go any further, I want to thank you guys so much from the bottom of my heart for watching all of my reviews over this past year. Like, I honestly didn't expect to get anything out of this channel. I thought it would just be like a fun thing for me to do, like in between all my other stuff, you know, since it would be a way for me to still make YouTube videos even though I didn't have time for my animation, which I hope to do better on next year, but I figured that's all this would be, just a nice alternative so that I could still be making YouTube videos and it would give me, you know, a way to discuss my passions, and maybe some people would, you know, latch on and see it or something like that. And I never expected it to be as, you know, as successful as it is. The fact that so many people are watching these stupid videos, that just means the world to me. Seriously guys, thank you so much. And one of the big traditions among people in the film review community is they like to take a look back at the year of movies and go over a specific 20. The cream of the crop and the bottom of the barrel. The ones that'll stand the test of time and the ones that'll become easily dated. The ones that'll be remembered forever and the ones we are desperately trying to forget. The top 10 best and worst movies of 2018. And now I get to share mine with you all. First off, I want to address some things. First of all, these are not the definitive best and worst movies of the year. This is just my opinion. There might be a movie like in my worst category that you think, well, I actually enjoyed that. There might be a movie in my best category that you think, well, that was really terrible. And that's perfectly fine. Feel free to tell me why I'm wrong in the comments below and share your own top 10 lists. I'm curious to see what you guys think. This is just my opinion, nothing more, nothing less. Also, I want to point out that there were a lot of movies that came out this year that I may have missed. So if there was a movie on here that you wanted to see that didn't, it may have been because I either missed it when it was in theaters or it just didn't look that interesting to me and I didn't really want to see it. So we're gonna start off with the top 10 worst of the year, but before we get into that, I want to give you some dishonorable mentions. These are some of the movies that were still pretty bad, but not bad enough to make the list. Predator 2018. Obviously a very bad movie with some clear editing problems and some really cheesy dialogue, but it's kind of a guilty pleasure. I enjoyed watching it. Hurricane Heist. Second verse, same as the first, really. This is a movie on the levels of something like Sharknado, something with really bad effects and not really any substance to it, but enjoyable to watch and make fun of. Venom. Not the train wreck that I was expecting it to be, but still a pretty bad movie. I don't know, maybe if they release a director's cut in the near future, then maybe I'll give it a second chance. I Feel Pretty. A pretty generic, boring, unfunny movie that barely escaped my list, but was ultimately beat out by something else. Well, those are all the honorable mentions out of the way. Let's get started with number 10. Solo: A Star Wars Story. Not only is this the worst Star Wars movie I've ever seen, and this is from the same franchise that has this, but it's also the least invested I've ever been in any type of movie. The story just kind of meanders around from beat to beat and character to character, and none of it is interesting. Even though I like Han Solo's origin story being a mystery, and I like the idea that he was just this rando that was thrust into this world of space wizards with laser swords on accident, I also feel like you could make his backstory really interesting. But no, it's just fucking boring. There's no feeling of suspense, there's no investment, and there's no character to latch onto because they're either uninteresting or dead before they're even properly introduced. Even though the characters in Rogue One were underdeveloped, there was still a feeling of dread and suspense because of what was going on. Here, the story is so all over the place, it's hard to even tell what is going on. And let's talk about the acting, because it's pretty decent for the most part. Donald Glover completely embodies Lando, and Emilia Clarke gives a pretty good performance. And Alden Ehrenreich's performance is fine, but it's in the wrong movie with the wrong character. This guy is supposed to be a young Han Solo, but I just don't see it. And it's not entirely his fault, he was just miscast. I know a lot of Star Wars fans might say that The Last Jedi is worse, and while that movie is bad, there are enough good parts in it that make me want to go back and watch it again. This, I don't think I could ever see myself rewatching more than maybe once. It was a bad idea from the start, and it ruined any excitement I had for the future of Star Wars. That being said, it's nothing compared to the next 9 films on this list.
What do you think? Well, what do you know?
Proud Mary. This movie isn't so much bad as it is disappointing and kind of underwhelming. First off, let me show you some clips from the trailer. Looks pretty cool, right? It's got a lot of cool action, gunfights, car chases. Makes you want to check out the rest of the movie to see all the other cool action, right? Well, if that were the case, you might just be better off watching the trailer on repeat for an hour. Because that big car chase shootout is pretty much the only action scene in the whole movie. And not only that, but it only takes up about 15 to 20 minutes in the third act. What does the rest of the movie have to offer? A by-the-numbers story with boring characters just sitting around talking about boring shit. While I will admit Taraji P. Henson gives a pretty good performance, I just wish that performance could be paired with more than just 15 minutes of badass action. Bottom line, don't waste your time with this one.
Who the hell are you?
I'm Mary.
Show Dogs. This movie might be fun to watch with your friends as part of some bad movie night, drunk off your ass, just laughing and trying to figure out what the hell was going on in these people's minds when they made this freaking movie. Because good God, the level of incompetence that's on display here it's actually kind of amazing. On the surface, this just looks like a standard bad kids movie with a pretty generic plot. But no, it is far, far worse. From the terrible CGI, the god-awful dog puns.
Team of crime fighters with license to bite.
Ugh. To the pretty terrible performances, except for maybe Will Arnett. To the implied grooming scene, yes, you heard that right. Sometimes you make a review talking about a movie you didn't like and think, maybe I was a little too harsh on this movie. This one though, I don't think I was harsh enough. Like, in the video I did with my ex, I was like, kind of laissez-faire about it. Like, it's pretty stupid and forgettable, but whatever. It's not the worst thing I've seen. But no, thinking back on it now, I should have been more hard on this movie. Like, how the hell did this shit get by? I mean, apparently it didn't because the parents complained so much and it got it removed from theaters, but still, what the hell?
The pain passes, but the beauty shall remain.
Red Sparrow. The only thing that I remember about this movie is that Jennifer Lawrence got raped a lot in it. If that doesn't tell you how bad of a movie this is, then I don't know what fucking will. This dollar store Black Widow movie had very little in it that was memorable, and the things that were memorable were really fucking disturbing. Seriously, I couldn't tell you a single detail I remember from this movie that didn't have to do with the graphic violence or sexual content. I mean, from what I recall, Jennifer Lawrence gave a fine performance, and I remember it looking really nice. The cinematography was really well done. But other than that, this movie was pretty forgettable. But given all the disturbing content in it, maybe that was for the best. They do have a nice poster though. Like, you can probably have seen it in some of the backgrounds of my videos. It does have a nice poster. That is a really good looking poster. but it's a shame it couldn't be for, you know, a better movie. Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald. Before I talk about this movie, I'd like to play you a clip from my Creed 2 review.
I would recommend it as well. I really enjoyed it, what I saw of it. Yes, I fell asleep through some of it.
Although honestly, it was you did better at this than Fantastic Beasts. Like, yeah. Literally, okay, a little bit of a Fantastic Beasts review at the end of this Creed 2 review. So
you're on your own for that one.
Yeah. So a couple of a couple weeks ago, like over Thanksgiving break, I took her to see Fantastic Beasts: Crimes of Grindelwald, because, you know, big
in my
Harry Potter
defense,
fan.
it was 9.
Yeah, in her defense, it was like really late at night. It was 9 o'clock. She had just gotten off of work.
Yes.
And also, it was a pretty fucking bad movie. But like, I swear to God, within the first 20 minutes, she was just out like a light. She was like this. For like 90% of the movie. Like, I'll put it, like, I took a picture of her like close to the end of the movie. I'll put it up somewhere on the screen now.
No.
It was the funniest thing ever. But
do you want to make it to 19?
Yeah, you know it's a bad sign when even one of the biggest Potter fans that I know can't even be asked to stay awake. But you know what? Who can blame her? This movie really sucks. I had concerns for this movie when I saw some of the reviews for it, but good lord, did I not expect it to be this bad. It lacks the whimsy and charm that made the first Fantastic Beasts enjoyable. The villain is even more forgettable this time around. The story makes absolutely no sense. There are no characters that are interesting. Even the characters that I liked from the first movie are somehow worse this time around. The only parts of the movie that I was actually invested in or cared about were anything involving Dumbledore and the Hogwarts flashbacks. But just like Proud Mary, those scenes only take up like 15 minutes of the whole movie. I don't know. I mean, from the looks of it, it seems like they're building to some big climactic payoff to all of this, so hopefully they can get it right with the third movie whenever that happens, if it happens. I know this movie didn't do very well and lost a lot of money, but I don't know. This one, it was just painful.
I can't move against Grindelwald. It has to be you.
Slenderman. It was a really tough decision between this movie and another movie, which I'll talk about in a minute, on which would get the higher or lower spot on this list. Ultimately, this movie ended up taking the number 5 spot, but that doesn't mean I hate this movie any less, because good God. If this movie's only problem was that it came out at a time where no one really cares about Slenderman anymore, then it probably wouldn't be on this list. And if it was, it may have just been in the honorable mentions. But no, this movie straight from the opening scene had me patiently checking my watch and waiting for the ending. The characters are all unlikable, one-dimensional stereotypes. The story manages to be both confusing and boring. The acting is appalling, the editing is trash, the scares are forced, and the visuals are terrible to look at. Oh, but don't worry, you probably won't be able to see how bad they look, because someone thought it was a great idea to shoot parts of this movie in complete fucking darkness! Seriously, you have to try really hard to make a movie this obscenely bad. Honestly, if you wanted to make a Slenderman movie, I think a better concept would be a recreation of the actual Slenderman stabbing that happened a few years ago. Yeah, it might be in poor taste, but it would have been better than a generic PG-13 monster movie. Video game movies have a reputation for being terrible, and this is one of the worst examples of that. Now one has to wonder how the hell the Five Nights at Freddy's movie is going to turn out, and more importantly, will it be any better than this? Fingers crossed. Blumhouse's Truth or Dare. I was really excited for this movie. I mean, just look at this trailer.
I'm seeing things. Truth or a dare?
Dare.
I know it sounds insane.
Just a little.
This fine young lady here dared me to show you my business.
Seen it before, not impressed.
Carter said, tell the truth or you die. Do the dare or you die.
Refuse to play. You know what? Screw this. And you die.
I mean, doesn't that just look like the funniest movie you will ever see? I mean, look at that face. It looks like a damn Snapchat filter. Oh my god. This movie is gonna be so much fun to watch. So you can imagine how disappointed I was when I found myself not only laughing, but struggling to stay awake.
Truth or dare?
God damn it, what happened to this movie? It's not scary, it's not funny, the plot and rules of this game make no sense, it treats the audience like they're missing chromosomes, the characters are just terrible human beings, the kills aren't inventive or juicy enough because it's PG-13, even the scary face doesn't have as much of an impact because of how much you see it. The ending is pretty funny though. It is so insulting to the viewer's intelligence and such a slap in the face that it's actually kind of hilarious. But aside from that, this movie is awful. The only remotely good thing to come out of this movie was a Truth or Dare related skit that me and my friends did for the school's news. That was a lot of fun to do, which hopefully you will see that on my main channel early next year. And I'll link to it whenever I do finally upload it. That was a lot of fun to do. But other than that, the actual movie it just sucked, man.
I'm so sorry, but I have to ask you. Truth or dare?
Maze Runner, The Death Cure. I'm kind of coming at this from two different angles. You know, you've got me who could not give less of a crap about Maze Runner. I never read the books, I never watched the other two movies. It kind of came out around the time where I was kind of like uninterested in the whole, you know, dystopian future, post-apocalyptic, young adult novel type of, you know, genre or tropes. Like most of it had already been done before and I just wasn't really into it anymore. But then on the other side, you have my ex, who is a huge Maze Runner fan. She's read all the books, she's seen all the movies, she was really excited about this one. So I took her to see it as part of her 6-month anniversary present, and she loved the hell out of it. And if by some miracle she does end up seeing this, I'm really glad you enjoyed it. Genuinely, I'm really glad you got something out of it. Don't let me take that away from you. That being said, I personally thought the movie was fucking trash. I mean, everything in this movie you've seen in other movies. The dystopian future ruled by an evil dictator with a faceless army at his or her disposal. And it's up to a group of attractive young people, one of them being the chosen one because, of course, to brave a bunch of challenges, to overthrow the bad guys and save the world and live happily ever after. Every aspect of this movie you can point out and say, oh, I saw this in that movie, oh, I saw this in that movie, because it's not even well hidden, it's not even subtle, it's just so obvious. Admittedly, there are some pretty cool action scenes, but there's way too much shaky cam for my liking, and it was impossible to get invested in any of the characters. One, because I hadn't seen the other movies, and two, because they just genuinely weren't that interesting. I was honestly sat for most of this movie thinking, what is the appeal? Who is actually still excited about these movies? But then I would look over and see my ex, who was just eating this damn movie up. She was loving it, she was, you know, she was excited whenever one of her favorite characters would pop up. She was on the edge of her seat during the climax, and then I realized this movie is made for her. This movie is for all the fans that have grown attached to this story and these characters and just want to see the epic conclusion to their favorite series played out on the big screen. And if you're one of those people, you probably enjoyed this movie. Hell, maybe even if I was a huge Maze Runner fan, then I would be a little less hard on this movie. But unfortunately, I'm not. So even if as a Maze Runner movie it might have been okay, as a movie, it fell pretty short in my opinion. A Wrinkle in Time. I was actually pretty interested in this movie when the trailers were coming out. I mean, it looked pretty cool. I mean, it looked like a cross between Doctor Strange and Tomorrowland. It had a pretty decent cast. It had an interesting concept. It looked really nice. But unfortunately, the only decent thing about the movie were the visuals. Everything else sucked. The writing and dialogue were laughably bad. The plot is stupid and predictable. The performances, good lord. These are some of the worst performances I've ever seen. Not just from the adults, but the kids. Oh boy. And sometimes it can be unintentionally funny, like with the little brother Charles Wallace, but the rest are just insufferable to watch. And who knows, maybe that comes from poor direction, bad writing, miscasting, or a little bit of everything. But yeah, this was really disappointing. Maybe it was better in the book, I don't know, I haven't read it. But if it's anything like this, maybe that's a good thing. 50 Shades Freed. Do I even need to say anything else? I mean, it's a 50 Shades movie. You knew from the moment you saw it that this was going to be terrible. And even though it's not as long and drawn out as the second one is, it is still a really painful movie to sit through. Everything that you know the 50 Shades franchise is back, and it's even worse than you remember it. It's poorly acted, poorly written, terrible story. I mean, stuff actually does happen in this, but you don't care about any of the stuff that's happening. Like, they try to make some epic conclusion. Oh, like, they try to build it up like, oh, don't miss the climax, but there's no fucking climax. It's just really terrible, really shitty. You don't care about these characters. You thought there was no sex in the second one, like this one. Oh, you're gonna be like friggin' blue balled by the time you get out of this one. It is just terrible. It's uninteresting. It's a shit movie. It's a shit series. The only positive thing that I can say about this movie is that it's the last one. After this, we will never have to hear about this bullshit series ever again. And for that, I am thankful. But God, this movie was awful. Although, the more I think about it, I do kind of have to thank 50 Shades in a way, because it was the video that started this channel off, and that video that I did with my grandpa talking about it, and that video did get pretty well received, and a lot of people really liked it, and they wanted to see more, and it gave me, a pretty good starting point for this review channel. So I do kind of have to thank 50 Shades in a way, because if it weren't for that movie, then I probably would have never started this YouTube channel. So thank you, 50 Shades. I'm still gonna need you to fuck off though. So there you go, that's my top 10 worst movies of 2018. Like I said, these are just my opinions. I want to know what you guys have to say down in the comments. Tell me what your thoughts are on any of these movies. Tell me what your own top 10 worst lists of 2018 are. And look forward to my top 10 best list coming sometime before the new year. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to leave a like, comment below, tell me what you think. Be sure to subscribe, ring the notification bell so you can stay up to date on whenever I post something. Be sure to subscribe to my main channel, JamesMCD Productions. Follow me on all my social medias. Everything you need to know will be in the description. Thank you guys for watching. See you later.